Looking for. All right. So, hello, everyone. Let me give the classic good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another insightful episode of Global Chamber AI series. I'm Jacob Dietz, founder and CEO of Climo Collective.
And my name is Yuka Nakasone, Executive Director of the Global Chamber in Spain. We've just opened a new chapter in Malaga this week. I mean, last week. So we have Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, and Malaga now. And today's episode, we will be talking about AI and mental health. Very, very important topic, right, Jacob?
Yes, yes. And so, especially now, recently, and this is how Rachel and I connected, but I'm supporting a global mental health task force. And last week, sort of as a collective and people around the world, we marked World Mental Health Day, which is
Mm.
a global reminder of the importance of prioritizing mental well-being.
Yeah, so let's take this opportunity and let's explore how artificial intelligence can be a powerful ally in our individual and collective journeys toward the better mental health for us, right? So,
So, you know, we're talking about potential, and it's somewhat still feel like it's becoming less, but it's still somewhat a polarizing topic. And AI is often lauded for its ability to enhance productivity and efficiency. But what are your thoughts, Yuka?
yeah, but we only focus on productivity, mass creation, efficiency, and some what people kind of scared in this environment, right? So I would like to find out myself, because you know, Jacob, more than I do, about how AI can contribute the well-being of us human being. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can speak for days about how I feel like it's enhanced my curiosity. It's the safest place to test big ideas and your curiosity and creativity,
Mm,
helping, yeah, both personally and professionally. And so
mm.
let's get into our first guest today. And so to guide us through this exploration, we had the pleasure of welcoming Maaria Tiensivu, the founder of Know Me and the Four Languages. And so,
Hello.
like some of my best connections, I met Maria kind of on a whim. I was invited to her podcast by her guest and close connection, Tracy Saad, founder of Commence Games. And the topic was around AI and creativity, one of my favorites. I was really blown away by the authentic and inclusive environment that Maria created, one where everyone feels welcome, seen, heard, and valued, sort of like how we started today. And the content was also incredible. It was an amazing and free flowing dynamic. Maria's approach is not just about adopting AI for the sake of speed or automation. She emphasized using AI strategically to go deeper into the processes and achieve more meaningful outcomes. As a tool agnostic designer, she'll guide us on how to integrate AI effectively in both professional and personal contexts. Maria, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super eager to learn about your insights and discover how AI can be a catalyst for both enhanced performance and improved mental health. The floor
Yeah.
is yours.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was so excited. This is honestly, obviously, one of my favorite topics to talk about and to interact around. I will try my best to make this as short as possible. Jacob already knows I tend to have I really want to give something tangible for everyone to like kind of take away from the sessions that I lead. So I will do my best to not overwhelm you. This is going to be a bit of a service design 101, as well as looking at the topic of AI and well-being. I am Maaria, like said before. So what we'll cover today, I would really like to start with the why. And just because AI and mental health, AI and well-being is kind of a weird topic. Like we have we have ideas about what it might look like and what it might be. But the way that we use it in our products is a bit different. And the reasons that it kind of got integrated in our services was kind of out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it at all. Even though I've worked in tech, I was not really like searching to include AI in the programs and processes that I had. I'll give like a really quick overview of what it can look like. And then I'll show you where in the process you might use AI. So this is going to be quite like a practical session in that sense. So if you have a project, if you have a company, keep that in mind while we're running through this, because a lot of the things you'll be able to kind of integrate already from today. And then I'll share a really quick case just to kind of show you exactly how it might look like in practice. And I'll use one of my favorite projects ever, which is the 4 languages, which is about well-being. And also something that I never expected to actually be using AI with, honestly. So quick intro background, originally from Finland, now in Mexico. Most of my time I spend in Latam. I've lived around Europe, but now here. And my background originally is in service design, which is going to be also kind of the lens that we're going to be using today. So service design basically just means that you are designing services, products, whatever it is. But instead of focusing on, for example, if a product designer is designing something, they usually have a format. So they have like, okay, I'm building a chair, so I'll just figure out how to build this chair. Or a UI, UX designer knows that it's going to be a digital product. Whereas a service designer is tool agnostic. So I'm solving a problem and I'll find the optimal ways to do it, whether it's AI, human interaction, a coffee shop, doesn't matter. It's about solving the problem instead of focusing on a very specific tool to do that. And transformational coach, that's my other kind of tangent of my careers, which is really focusing on like really transformational growth. So changing fundamental things about one's life. And yeah, founder of Know Me and the 4 languages, both funnily working with AI these days. Unexpected, but yeah, you never know, like Rachel said, where the universe takes you. So to give a bit of background, so why did we actually go from very like human focused, human to human service and started integrating AI? The original mission that we had at Know.me and the 4 languages is kind of like helping humans everywhere. So this is something that was always important to me, not to only work in the States and Europe, but really kind of like work around the world. All of my projects are very global. So helping humans everywhere to go from insight to action, which means understanding themselves better and turning that understanding into concrete actions. And this we were doing mostly using experiments, which, to be honest, doesn't really require tech, but I was curious about if it might be used in this context, because obviously it's everyone who's done like one-to-one coaching or group coaching, it's very limited. It's quite high price. It's only in the session that you get that support. So I was really curious on like how to address the everywhere part, especially while doing this type of work, and not just limiting it to, you know, C-level executives in the States and Europe, which is usually where people get coaching. So why did we take this very human approach and take it into the field of AI? So first of all, what I already mentioned, accessibility. It gives you completely different price point to offer fully outside of the kind of usual one-to-one coaching, for example. This was one of the most surprising ones, and we started noticing this when people started using the tools, is that people would ask very honest questions from the AI that I obviously can't know for sure, but I doubt they would ask me in a session. So it creates this kind of like safe space to ask questions that you might be ashamed to ask from a person because you think like, oh, this is maybe a stupid question or whatever it is. So AI can take that. AI can facilitate a space for questions that you might not get otherwise. Personalization, this is one of the key ones for us. Why AI? Usually you had to kind of like target group, you know, like you would be targeting, you have like different audiences that you might be personalizing for. With AI, you personalize not only to the individual, but to the individual moment in time and the challenge they have in that moment. Everything you create and train will be fully for that person in that situation, which is, again, something that was not possible really outside of one-to-one sessions before. Then maybe a clear one, but 24/7, it's always there. And you can turn understanding inside a session into actual experiments instantly, instead of me thinking about it for 2 days and then sending it over. So AI just actually really made it better. It made us go deeper. It made it more personal, more kind of in depth, rather than just, faster and scalable, which is what we usually think about when we think about AI. And that's the reason that we started implementing AI, because it actually made it better. So the mission that we had was, and still is, helping humans everywhere to go from insight to action. But now we've expanded also to helping humans, whether it's in businesses or as individuals, to use AI to go deeper, not just more efficient, not just faster, but how can you actually get better and smarter with AI? Because that's something that we're experiencing very much in our own work. So this is going to be a really quick one, because this obviously would take a week for us to run through. Here are just a few examples of why you could use AI just in the field of kind of coaching and personal development. Insane number of different uses. And this is probably the feeling that most of us have. I know I did, and I still do when I start looking at the tools. Whew, like there's a lot going on. How do you even know like where to start and where you actually can use AI? So that's what this session is about. I'm going to try to be as simple and as clear as I possibly can, so that hopefully you can take a few steps to really get going in your business or project, whatever you have. So first, you need to understand yourself. Where do you as a person or your company add the most value? So where is it that you add the most value? And you can think about this after the session, especially. Where do you add the most value? What's the thing that people really thank you for, people love about working with you or being around you? That's the first thing to note. And then the other one is understanding, where do you waste the most resources? This could be motivation. So you're doing stuff you don't like, which leads us to the usual path of AI, using it for efficiency, outsourcing. But where do you waste most time or energy of any kind? So now you've understood those, then you can start kind of playing around a bit more. And I use the word experiment very intentionally here, because AI is experimenting. I mean, it's growing and changing so fast. There's no other word really you can use for it. So asking yourself, where might AI add the most value to you or to your business or in general? And the second one is absolutely crucial. Where is AI optimal or good enough? AI is not perfect, and it's definitely not God. It has a lot of limitations, and it's insanely important to really remember to not work with AI on topics that you don't understand and you can't evaluate. I noticed this a lot with my partner, because he's a lawyer and he works with AI in law. It does not work in law as easily as you would think. I wouldn't be able to tell because I'm not a lawyer. He is, because he is. So making sure that when you work with AI, have people who can actually evaluate the output, because otherwise you get into trouble with hallucinations, etc., etc. So I'll show you how this worked through in my community. This is obviously going to be very kind of like simplified, only a part of the process, but just to show you how it looks like in practice. So the Verb Languages is a community for holistic well-being in practice. So we address the mind, the soul, the heart, and the body in weekly experiments. And that's the kind of like simplest way to put it. But it's an online community, and we have live sessions. So if we look at the first step, so understanding, where do you add the most value? So in my case, or in our case, the biggest value and the thing that people loved the most was the one-to-one coaching, the live community calls, the kind of like safe space that I create as a person. So these are things that I should not give over to AI because I would ruin the whole purpose and the core value of my service. I could try to give some of these to AI, but again, where do I add value? That's not something to give over to AI. So I will keep these. I will keep on doing the live community calls and creating that safe space for people to share. But where do I waste the most resources? And this is really interesting because this is where I kind of surprisingly started to use AI, even though I wasn't really expecting to. So there were a few things that I was doing live, like helping ideate, having sessions about like how to create experiments, helping people understand the four languages framework. And it wasn't really time well spent. It was fine, but it wasn't really worth it. It wasn't the main value that I could give. So then when we started working with AI now quite a while ago, where does the AI add the most value? So these were the parts that I knew that were kind of important, but it wasn't really the best use of my time. And also, where is AI optimal or good enough? So right now, in this moment, AI is amazing in our case, or in this case, to help you understand what are the four languages. So I don't need to have a session necessarily to tell you. You can run through a scan, you can ask questions from the AI, it's been trained. It will actually help you adapt it to your life instead of me giving a general talk about it, right? And the reflection sessions, creating your weekly experiments, those things are much better done with an AI. And the funny thing about AI is that before Claude was updated, none of this was possible with AI, with like generative AI, because OpenAI and the other models at the time were not good enough to do this. It was only a few months ago when Claude updated that it actually became good enough, like I said, to be used for this. So again, AI moves so quickly that it's really crucial to keep with it to be able to kind of utilize it to its fullest potential. And this I just want to share, it's just a part of everything I do. So we still do the calls, there's a WhatsApp group, there's a newsletter. AI is always going to be a part of your service. And that's what we mean by like strategic use of AI. Finding the spots in your service or in what you do that are better done with AI. And it's not going to be everything. And it shouldn't be everything. It's not about automating everything you do to the AI. It's about finding the spots where it actually does add something. And like keeping yourself in the game as well, because most of us work, at least here, I assume that we work on things we care about. So why would you outsource yourself out of everything that you do? So where can you start with in your business? I'll just show you because this was a very simple one. Not going to go anywhere deep into this, but this is what it can start looking like when you actually start pinpointing in your business. Like where does your customer interact with you? Where should you use AI? Where not? And I think where not to use AI is probably one of the most important questions. Where should you not use AI? And that's the question I feel like not many people are asking themselves. I'll leave you with this question to reflect. What do you actually enjoy doing? Why do you do what you do? What do you love doing? We hear a lot about, for example, like AI for content creation. And like, I don't know if you have that feeling, but I'm like, oh, am I stupid for not using it? Because I've been using it, I've tried to use it. But then I'm like, I love writing. I actually love the process of writing. I love the process of sharing it. Yes, there are typos and sometimes it doesn't make sense, but at least it's something that's really important to me personally, to share something from me and not use AI for that part, even though I know how to and I could. So it's like, what do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do? I could give my voice to an AI and run my meditations, just writing it as text and programming in an AI to run it. But I love running meditation. So why would I do that? So just really be careful and mindful of like not outsourcing the parts that you or your clients love about what you do. And also don't limit yourself to what works now. Like I said, we weren't really utilizing AI in the same way we are now because the models weren't there at the time. And then they were. One day to the next, they just were. And they actually went from like 0 to 100. So keep yourself open to what might change, but also be mindful of it doesn't work for everything. Not yet. Here's a QR code if you want to get to my to the Know Me website. You can book me for a call if you're curious about blueprinting or just having a chat, whatever comes to mind. And yeah, I have a more kind of technical talk coming next week that you can also join from the website if you'd like. I made it almost in 15 minutes, right? That was a tough one.
So thank you very much, Maaria. And it was very, I would say amazing because many people talk about faster productivity, scalability, but you went for depth, right? And I share one of the backgrounds, which is transformational coach. And I've been using this like yourself to create the sessions, but I didn't think about using it in such a systematic way and well thought way, and chapeau. And very, very interesting. And thank you very, very much. And if you anybody who has listened to this wants to talk to her, please contact her. Is there any question from the audience? Nobody?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Maaria? And
So
we'll have some time at the end as well.
okay, so I just want to figure out one thing, that if we talk about coaching sessions, we talk about very individual things, right? So where do you what kind of security or what kind of tool you use not to let's say, seen by the third party your client's information? I'm just curious.
Yes. So actually, one of the founders of the company that we partner with here, she and Solon, is here. So we work with Launch Lemonade, which is a platform where we're running a session next week with them. So there's going to be a bit more about that then on the 23rd. But that platform does not share any of the data to be used as training for the models, for example. So it stays within the platform. And this was something that was really important to us because of the type of work that we do, right? Because if you don't have the sense of privacy, you obviously are very limited in sharing. So insanely important, and also, yeah, something that needs to be taken into account.
Anybody, this is a safe environment, so let's go with Maaria. Okay. And thank you very much. Now let's dive into some real world example of how AI is being used to support mental health. I'm so excited to introduce Rachel Lynn Carey, co-founder of World Artists United. Rachel has an amazing background in work, music, media, and tech, and everything else. And she's passionate about using technology to make a positive impact. Is that right? And you're going to share some groundbreaking projects that I heard that leveraging AI to promote mental wellness. And I can't wait to hear.
Yes,
Take it
thank
away.
you, Yuka.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here with you all today. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to prepare such a beautiful presentation. But thank you, Maaria, for what you shared. And you know, I definitely definitely resonates with me. You know, how you're using AI and see it as a tool to, you know, increase insight to action, right? And really just bringing more access and awareness. And, you know, there just aren't enough coaches and practitioners and all of that to go around. So I think that's one of the beautiful things that AI is doing, or allowing us to kind of break through. So my journey has been a very interesting one. So I won't go through all the details, but I did start my career as a social worker and mental health practitioner, I soon found myself running nonprofits and doing development and financial development and all of that for nonprofits. And I just felt like there had to be a better way to scale impact. And there were a lot of people that needed support. Oh, I'm hearing
sorry.
a little feedback from someone. Oh, okay. No worries. Did you have a question? No. Okay. So I ended up kind of transitioning from social work into entrepreneurship and thinking about how do we scale, social enterprise. And then also, of course, all of these, great, technologies and programs and resources are wonderful, but how do we distribute them to more people, right? How do we reach more people? Like when it wasn't finance being a problem, then it was marketing. And so I started to invest into media and entertainment a little over 10 years ago. And I invested into a company called Sweetie High, which at the time was really about creating a safe space for Gen Z girls online where we could, create and also curate kind of psychologically safe content, but it still be cool and edgy and fun. And then how to help the brands really connect with this generation as well in a way that really meets their needs, that's authentic to how they're living online and consuming content and all of that. And then ended up starting World Artists United with my now business partner over the last 10 years. After he had a 10-year journey in the music industry where there's lots of interesting mental health issues. And so he got to tour the world and really experienced that, but experienced also a lot of crooked activities where his own business manager stole all of his intellectual property and resources. And so he really wanted to fix that. But then he also got to help launch artists like Avicii and, helped bring him, if you all know, he's obviously a major icon and DJ who really struggled with mental health issues and then got sucked into the pharmaceutical world and so many other things and ended up taking his own life. And that was when we saw that, we really needed to help create a different type of culture and community for the entertainment industry, and that we could also, utilize the power and reach of artists, of athletes who are dealing with their own struggles to, number one, give them an outlet and a sense of purpose and meaning by really sharing real stories with their fans. I'm so proud of the direction that the entertainment industry has gone and really allowing people to be vulnerable and real and not like these fictitious, happy characters that don't have any problems. There was recently here in New York, Project Healthy Minds does a big mental health event, and they just had Demi Lovato on, talking about her journey with mental health. And you can find all these great documentaries and that. So I've had a lot of different layers to my career, but it's always been centered on how do we elevate communities. And so, of course, now I kind of sum up what I do in bridging pop culture, technology, and impact. So one of the companies that I wanted to speak with you about and kind of just share this really leading edge technology that I think is really going to revolutionize, number one, how we get just access to assessment and how we actually help to identify mental health challenges that people are experiencing. And then also to be able to separate, what I think is relatively probably a small percentage. I've heard some people say maybe 20%, right, of people who are dealing with a mental health issue, that it's really a chronic illness, right? And they might need pharmaceutical intervention or, deep psychiatry. But then there's a large percentage that really need positive mental health habits, right? Really need to kind of discover, like Maaria was talking about, more just insight into their own lives and where they need to create more of a nurturing environment for themselves. So two things that I'm going to talk about. One is how, AI and technology can really make an impact. But then on the other side, how we really as a, society, I think here, especially in the US, but I would argue, in a lot of places around the world, need to get back to the basics and, really think about, our community and our relationships. And so I'm now a part of something called the Kinder Foundation. So you can find us online at bekinder.org. And what we're doing there is teaching the power of mindful kindness. And there's some AI coming into that as well. So I'll share a little bit about that. But Clinic Calm was started by a gentleman who has, a thriving psychiatry practice here, and his son, who they also have had for the last 20 years, a laboratory where they do a lot of the third-party clinical testing for the pharmaceutical industry and FDA on various treatments and drugs, and seeing how misdiagnosed and overdiagnosed a lot of patients are getting, because number one, there just isn't enough psychiatry support here. I think it's roughly about 60% of cities in the US who don't have any clinical support at all. It takes on average about 6 weeks to even get an appointment with someone. And so what they've built is this online assessment tool that in one platform can assess and monitor over 80 DSM-5 conditions, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, right, which is what the psychiatry community uses to make diagnosis. So, we're seeing how AI, of course, isn't going to supplement any of the medical care that we have, but it can really augment and help them get to the right diagnosis faster. There are some conditions, such as schizophrenia, for instance, that it can take up to 7 years to actually identify the right diagnosis and therefore the right treatments. And then you think of how do you actually assess the effectiveness of these treatments. This is another area where AI can really be super beneficial. So right now, using a tool like this, instead of having to wait 6 weeks to get in and see a practitioner, right, you can immediately start doing, your practitioner can send you an online assessment. And now you can go through this entire assessment. What they've been able to do is, if you understand, the DSM-5, there's just criteria, right? So a patient must display certain criteria, but doesn't have the questions to actually ask. And so they have identified it and copywritten all of the questions that go go along with each of the criteria, and then created their own, large language model to be able to intake all of this information and properly help to identify and again, assess these conditions. So immediately you can go through this very in-depth assessment that can be sent to your clinician, and then it can really rank the patients and show who's in most need of getting in your door tomorrow. And we need to make exceptions for that, right? And who can we maybe refer to someone like Maaria, right, who's not really dealing with a chronic illness, but really just needs more social, emotional support and community. And so we can really help to identify, what does someone need now, and maybe alleviating, the pressure of the medical community from having to intake and do all of this, assessment in real life. So I think this is where, these tools are really going to massively supplement and support the medical community. The other thing is the long-term kind of follow-up and making sure, is a treatment or whatever that we have, recommended to someone, is it really working, right? So again, right now, all of this is done in person. And instead, we can have these supplemental tools to really track this data over a longer period of time, and really identify what's working. So Clinic Calm, you can find them at cliniccalm.com and, really dig in to this tool. The amazing thing I love about it is, again, access and scalability. we could have the entire city of New York tested in a single day, right? Give this information to the schools, provide, a broad landscape for public health officials to really understand where we need to heighten support. And, again, what kind of alternative options are there to really support people with their mental health journey. So some really, really amazing things that are happening here. And then on the absolute opposite side of this is my work that I'm doing with the Kinder Foundation. And the Kinder Foundation, again, we realize that what is one of the most important, or actually the longest study on happiness that was ever done, right, at Harvard over, I think, 85 or some years, what did it identify? That the biggest determinant of our well-being and happiness is the quality of our social relationships. And because of social media and devices and I think just our lifestyle, overall, the speed at which, we're moving, again, especially here in New York City, I think, and it's never had to be a conversation either, right? Where before we had opportunities to play video games and watch YouTube and, distract ourselves, we were out in the community. And so we were just naturally building relationships and building friendships and, had that support system. And so now we really need to teach one another, I think, about the importance of really building community for ourselves. And so at the Kinder Foundation, that's exactly what we do. We have curriculum throughout schools here in the US. We've taught about 1 million students thus far on the power of mindful kindness, really just starting to plant the seeds for a few moments of mindfulness and a few mindful skills, which then help to make us just more present and aware of the people around us, and moments to share kindness, or moments to, really reflect more kindly to ourselves. And so we're really trying to embed these positive mental health habits into, one's day and routine. We have taught about 7,000 prisoners, brought this into hundreds of community organizations, and now actually working on an executive leadership program as well, again, to bring this idea of mindful kindness and human connection, and really tapping into our own ability to thrive. Now, I think AI can really support us in that as well, right? In that a companion app we're developing right now for our executive leadership program, because we're going to go into an office and we're going to teach some of these skills, but then how do you practice it and get that feedback and reinforcement along the way? That's really only something that technology like this can do. And of course you can rely on, your colleagues around you. And I think we definitely want to encourage, more people, again, to have those moments where you sit down and chat with one another. But there's also great companion apps that help to lead those and facilitate those conversations, right? If you don't have the opportunity and you don't have someone maybe in your workplace or in your home, that can do that. I think these companion apps that I've seen a number of, from like journaling apps to these kind of like what's the word that I'm looking for? Anyway, I'll stick with companion app that can help us just kind of like moderate a conversation and help us really get deeper with one another, right? So I'm excited about some of those things that are, coming to the forefront. And then there's another group that we've started working with called Million Ways. And this is sentiment analysis. So they can really take data from an entire organization and look for certain themes, right? So again, we'll stay on the kindness thread. If you want to bring this, work into your organization, or even assess and see like, I think everybody's pretty kind around here, or, we don't need any more support with mental health. Well, let's take a look through all of the communication throughout your organization, and we can really turn that data back to you and help you really understand. It's one thing to go in and like do a survey and ask your employees to give you, feedback and talk about their day. It's another to really be able to analyze all of the communication. And again, we want to make sure that anything that we're building, yes, we are thinking about privacy, about confidentiality. We're not trying to do these things to call any one individual out. We want to really be able to understand how do we show up better for our communities, for, our organizations. So I think there are some really cool tools that are, coming about that can help us do that and just have a better understanding of what we're really dealing with instead of just making, certain assumptions. So I'll stop there. And if anybody has any questions or I can dig into anything, more specifically, happy to do so. But again, I think, just balancing, it's great to have technology in our lives, but we also need to remember that we're humans being and we need to have more time to be together. And that's what's really going to help us move through and find real mental health. And again, I think there are cool things that are, coming about that can help us really have a deeper interaction with one another and have more meaningful conversation. Maybe we just don't know the questions to ask or kind of how to get there. So I do think that that is, another area where AI can support us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate not only the fact that you brought in some really great statistics and to help us, sort of wrap our heads around this common challenge faced by so many people, but providing organizations that you're working with that have solutions that they're exploring that are really exciting. And before I throw it to questions, for me personally, one of the most transformational, catalytic ahas I've ever had was really understanding the difference between being kind and being nice. And I think if I have to think about how I show up better, learning true kindness has allowed me to show up better in so many different spaces. And so thank you so much for sharing all of that information and the organizations you're supporting. So would love to open this up for questions. Barry, yeah, so you came off on mute.
Oh, you noticed. That's great. Hey, I do transformative learning and consulting. I know there's many people on here that do, and I've used AI mostly on a literary basis or to write me a letter about this. You know what I'm saying? Just pretty much. But I never looked at it from mental health. Now, the colleagues I work with, we've really been exploring this experience of integrity, and integrity not just as morality, ethics, and legality, which is always important, Rachel, to follow your moral compass, right? Do the right thing. The only problem is terrorists, the right thing for them is to kill Americans. And for us, that doesn't work. There's got to be some ground, some middle place where you actually experience mental health and mental well-being. And we've seen that if one can see themselves as their word, that I give you my word, that I could actually be my word rather than my feelings. I respect my feelings, and a lot of times I'm either feeling good, bad, whatever, or I feel angry about something. Yes, that is part of what it is to be human. But when you can honor your word, no, when you can be your word and you honor that word, and I clean it up with you when I know I'm not going to be able to honor or keep my word. I found myself present to being well. Like experience of being whole and complete as a person may be totally related to your word, and it's actionable. There's actually a way to do it. uh, and it seems to really work. Anything about that that you see, Rachel? Anything related to that, or am I just like taking us to Paris and it's off keel here?
Sorry, finding the mute here. Well, I guess it sounds to me like what you're talking about is really aligning your intention with
Mm,
your attention and your action,
yeah.
right? And really being able to find like an authentic maybe
Yeah.
path there. Am I?
Talk, you say it's going to be this way and you do what you say you're going to do, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like, oh, someone said to me that, oh, they don't have this anymore. There used to be these tongues in your shoe, Remember the tongue in the shoe? No, you may not. You're too young. But your tongue in your mouth matches your tongue in your shoe, or your
Yeah.
talk, or like that. Yeah. That
So,
seems something.
mm-hmm. And are you curious how AI can help to
That
align that? Yeah.
might have a relationship to it. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe you don't know. It's okay not to know too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a specific answer for that, but I would say, I mean, that's where these tools are interesting. Like, I mean, even using like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, where you can start to just interact with it, right? And just have conversations and start to say, like, hey, this is, the life that I want to live, right? Yeah, being curious. And can you help me, maybe think through where I'm at with this. This is my intention. This is, some of the things that I'm experiencing. And I think, um, because with AI as well, right? We can be, it's a completely non-judgmental space, which is great.
Right.
Yeah. And so we can just be really, real. And you can also, put out like certain prompts and the type of like companion or role that you want it to have. I've been reading through Deepak Chopra, so where Jacob and I met at the UN Mental Health Task Force. Deepak was there and sharing his latest book called Digital Dharma, and how he has been exploring, using AI to really get to a deeper level of insight. And so he's got some really interesting prompts, and just the way that he, has kind of been utilizing and exploring it, and how users can as well. So I would definitely recommend, and I'm just, getting started in it. But I think there's a lot of ways that will answer some of your questions. And then again, yeah, just, starting to have that conversation.
No, that's great. I'm also exploring this whole thing that these robots that Elon Musk is now creating. I mean, there are many other companies that are doing that are AI based, and the companionship that's going to be. He said it could be your companion, or it can cook a meal for you, or it can talk to you. I mean, there might be. I don't know how AI is going to play out on all of that. That's pushing out
Yeah,
there.
I don't know if Rachel, if you have some thoughts on that, but that's, I'm open-minded about everything, but like that's where my like sci-fi fears
I know
start
it's
to
becoming
kick in.
real.
But no, what I would almost love is there anybody else that has we have about 8 minutes left. You could, is there a question? And then also I'd love to sort of see if Maria and Rachel have
Yeah.
questions for each other.
And sorry, because there was a question before. Is Johannes Gates here? Would you like to ask the question you asked on the chat? Otherwise, I can read, Johannes? He asked, I am interested in how AI can analyze patterns in mental health data to offer more personalized and timely interventions. I think you explained this, Rachel, through diagnostics and follow-up and blah, blah, blah. But if you can summarize a little bit for Johannes to answer to this question, it'd be great. Rachel?
Sorry, sometimes finding the unmute, it's like every other window pops up and I can't get there. So I've been exploring, a couple of apps. Again, one that I just actually went through their assessment. One of the founders is here, this Million Ways, which is like a sentiment analysis type of thing. And so it's like a daily journal that you just talk to it like you would, write in your journal, but it can start to, I think, over time, right? I don't know what length of time that you need to have these interactions. And maybe this is something Maaria can touch on as well, or if she's found any. We're still early days, right? So I haven't found anything that I've been super wowed by. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day too. So there may be, plenty of others out there, but anyways, but you kind of just have this conversation over time. You can also kind of input like what types of things you want to start recognizing in your life, where it can help to begin to reflect and show you like where certain patterns are showing up, right? And I think the cool thing is unlike working directly with a counselor or mental health person, you just can't have that many conversations with them. So I do think that we're going to be able to unlock personal insights much more quickly. So I do find that really exciting. But I'm not really sure which platform yet is going to be the one. Maaria, do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, we're using this in some of our tools, and the tools that we have are very much aimed at like supporting in that reflection, and actually related back to Barry's question. There are so many ways that we kind of like align with our intentions. One is just stating them out loud and becoming accountable, but also like going back to a fully facilitated conversation, because prompting sounds really easy, but it's not. It's actually really difficult to craft experiences that really help you reflect. So there is the way where you can build it yourself, or you can use ones that have been built for you, and we do both. So there is the possibility to always add like long memory, or add kind of like intentions or information about yourself in the memory of the AI tool in our tools as well, in which case you can actually track. And that's one of the reasons when I said that like we shifted from AI not being the right tool to it being the right tool, is exactly that, because it can start really pointing out the things that you keep repeating, asking the right questions, which is something that a coach can do, a good coach can do. A bad coach probably can't, but AI can as well. So it's very good at recognizing, but also kindly reminding you about the things that you keep mentioning or bringing up. And one of the things I really love with we've been doing a lot of exploration of how different models interact, their tone of voice when you train them, for example. And for different people, different kinds of tones of voice work. So for me, it's Claude because it's reflective, empathic. For my partner, he's more structured. So he likes talking to OpenAI much more. So again, if you want to go and build it yourself, you can fully. But there are a lot of factors that go behind, like crafting really mindful and intentional AI experiences. So there's that side, like it's not just about like giving the right prompt. It's like, which model do you use? Why? What do you want it to point out? What do you want it to remind you of? What are the patterns you might want to recognize? What are the goals that you might have? All of these things come together. But yeah, AI is incredible for that when used in a really mindful, intentional way. And also one thing that I will add, which is amazing, a lot of people, including myself, we get reactive when we are pinpointed something we don't want to hear. And for some reason, it's easier to hear it from an AI. It's less confronting. So there's actually a magic to knowing that it's a bot, and it doesn't get annoyed. You can say whatever and it's still like empathic and understanding, which might be more difficult for a human. So yeah, there are a lot of weird and surprising benefits to you talking both to humans and trained AI assistants.
Yeah, Maria, I
Wow.
think you bring up a really great point on the prompting side of things. And I haven't seen if there is any sort of site or community to really educate people around like prompting for mental health and kind of creating that custom companion. That would be something really interesting to have some resources to help people. And again, I've seen some of that in this book, but just getting people to really understand how to, to use these tools. Again, in its early days, but there, is a lot of sophistication, but it's just really in learning how to deeply use these properly.
Yeah, and it's not the same for everyone. That's the thing. It's the model, it's the way you prompt, it's the phrasing, it's so many different things that come together. It's simple in practice when you use it, when it's been trained. It's like having a good product. You don't notice how good it is. If you don't notice it, it's probably so good that it's been crafted to perfection. You only notice it when it doesn't work. And it's the same with prompting. If you start feeling like weird, then there's probably something in there. We do that with our clients and with the people we work, because the prompting part and the selection of the model is really, it's a lot more difficult than one might expect, because they are all super different.
Thank you very much. That's the reason why we need professionals like you, Rachel and Maria. And thank you very, very much. Jacob, it's about the time to close, right?
Yes, it is. And what I said in the chat is like I really appreciated that dynamic. And I just also appreciated all of the knowledge and resources and experiences and just the different ways that we can look at this technology as a tool to help ourselves and help us better understand ourselves. Real quickly, Doug, do you have any final closing words or well wishes before we head off?
Thank you for pulling this together, very much so. And I also want to thank you, Jacob and Yuka, and everybody else who's contributing to the Global Chamber GC community that is focused in on AI and tech. I love the way these events are tying into the daily conversations that you're having. Clearly, these are amazing topics. The use of AI is it feels like sometimes the only thing we should be thinking about in terms of our businesses and the things that we need to implement yesterday. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you to the speakers, and we look forward to staying in touch with each of you. And thank you, Global Chamber members, for all that you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. And just to sort of hype up Global Chamber a little bit before we leave for our guests is like what blows me away every day by Global Chamber is just the accessibility. I mean, we have chapters in 525 metros, and it's just a network of genuine connectors and people wanting to see a better world for business and all. And so once again, Maaria, Rachel, thank you so much. Yuka, it is always a pleasure to be beside you on these events. Thank you to all the people that attended, and thank you to all the people that watch us on YouTube later. All right, well, we will see y'all next month. And until then, have a great end to October and early November. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for having me.
participating.
Thank you.